All right, so we're back and we left off doing the hair. We did the berry on the left here. Show you. So we have the left-sided berry and then we did a bunch on the hair. So we're going to continue on with the hair today. In this part, we're going to do the rest of the hair. We're going to get down here, do some of these ponytail curls, and hopefully get to this berry. So let's get started. Don't want to make these too long. So again, we're going to start. Let me see if I can adjust my camera here. Tricky. Always a tricky thing to do. Okay. Hopefully I am in your view. We are going to do this ponytail little thing here. This curl, I'm going to get in there for you. We're going to focus on this. And then we're going to switch over to the other side and do the other ponytail. Kind of in unison, like you were doing a butterfly. So what you do on one side, you should do on the other. If that makes a lot of sense. So you want to get a uniform look. That's the best way to do that. So let's start with our 140, which is our eggshell. Let me get my glasses because I'm old and I can't see. Okay, we're going to start. 140 is our eggshell. Oh, and let me back up really quick. In case you're wondering, it's the same colors. It's 940 black, 948, 914, 938, 947, 943, 945, 1082, 1084, 140, and 1092. These are potential colors. We may or may not use all of them, so keep that in mind. And push that off to the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 940, just like before, and I'm going to put a light coat of my 940. And I'm working the same as I did the upper portion of the hair. Paying close attention around the berry. But I'm just going to do the fine streaks or hairs, however you want to call it, the dashing. So I'm doing a combination of short and long strokes. And I'm staying with what she already has. I'm not trying to fill in every white space. But right here on this little portion, you see that little lighted area right here? Go ahead and do that like you would up top with the part. And right around this edge. You don't have to do it heavy, just a nice light coat. Okay. And you're going to want to do this all the way down your, I guess it's a ponytail or a curl. And make sure you're staying with the flow of the hair. So if the hair curves one way, make sure you're putting your lines in that way. One is going to make your image look really good when you got all your layers lined in. Now you're going to continue and just do the whole entire thing. Notice I'm paying attention to the areas where there's going to be some more light hitting. But I'm not doing small circles, so I'm not actually filling it in. I'm just putting some light lines. Kind of like a base layer with this. I just noticed my camera's jiggling because I got my phone plugged in. So I keep bumping my cable. I will have to unplug that here. But I'm just, again, doing the small light dashes. Now, you know how hair, as it gets in the sun, it looks lighter towards the bottom? Kind of bleaching out. Okay, now I'm going to move to the other side really quick. And I'm just going to repeat the same thing. I started putting in some of my red color. I thought I hit record, but I didn't, so I stopped. Again, I'm going around the edge of that berry. But in case you're curious, that was 122. I started putting a light layer in. But I stopped because I wasn't on record. I was like, oh no. But we'll come back to that. I'll go over everything. So I'm going to go around this fork here. And in between the tines of the fork, I'm just putting a light layer. And right around here. Now again, if you're working with a toned paper, you could get away with using white. Especially if you're using a toned tan paper doing this. But I like to use the eggshell because it blends better with the brown. Especially because I'm using a bright white paper. Again, I'm just going around that edge where that light would hit it. Again, I'm following the flow of the hair. I'm really not doing anything fancy. Short and long strokes. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna set my 140 aside. Let me unplug my phone real quick. Sorry, it's gonna move the camera. There we go. Not so much jiggly wiggly. Then I won't bump that cord. Okay, now I'm gonna take my, let's start with your, I think I'm gonna start with my 943. And I'm gonna go up here with a very light touch. I'm just outlining where that berry and the hair come together. I'm gonna do some light strokes, following the flow of the hair. Again, I'm not trying to fill in every space. You're doing it just like you would when you did the top portion. A variation of short and long strokes. Okay, now in between your little tines here, you could put some little dashes in there. Just add some subtle hints. And a sharp tip is going to work really well for getting in those fine spaces. Again, I'm just working around here. Put a couple dashes. Following the flow of the hair. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. And I'm not in your... My hand's not getting in your view. And you'll notice that the artist has some heavier line. Oops, I got out of the picture there. A little crazy. But the artist has put in some heavier black lines for you, so it should be easy to kind of adjust your colors around those. More your darker colors or your shaded area. Okay, we're getting down to the tiny end of the curl. Just going around these edges here. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, let me scooch the paper over so you can see. And I'm just going to repeat it. A little different direction, but the same concept. with some short and long strokes. And again, you're, like I said before, you're not trying to fill in every white space, because the number of layers that you put in here will eventually fill that all in for you. Okay. And I think these colors just really give it that nice auburn look, that brownish, I guess chestnut color, but it's got a little bit of an auburn. I almost thought of doing her as a redhead, but there's so much red already with the berries, and then the berries on the cake. We'll see how this comes out with the colors I picked, huh? Especially when we get to the shirt. The shirt was an argument within my own head on what to do. I kept trying different things, and I didn't like what I was getting, because I scratched out some options when I did it, and I was like, I don't like that, I don't like that. So I think I found something that made me happy with my choice. Kind of a country look, but you can do your shirt any color you like. But the way I chose to do it is kind of keeping, again, with what the artist already has for her, what she's drawn in there. Okay, get around this last little bit here. Okay, looking pretty good so far. I think I'm going to add a couple more. Not too much, just a little bit. Okay, put that one aside. Now I think I'm going to grab my, decisions. Let's do a little bit of the chocolate for right now. I know that's a little different than what we did up top, but I'm going to go around this berry here with the darker brown and around these fine edges. So I'm just carefully laying in a few dark strands around that berry's tricky. Okay, I'm not going to do too much right now with this chocolate, because I want to see, let me turn my page here. I want to see what my color looks like, because you can always add more, but it's hard to take away. So you don't want to get too much or too dark right away, because then it's going to be difficult. I got to keep rotating because of the angle of these curls. A little tricky. And again, you can see I'm just following the flow of the actual picture. Okay. I'm doing the outline of the hair really lightly. If you're wondering what I was doing along the edge there. Okay, and underneath, Then I'm going to do the same thing. A couple of these nice little dark streaks in there. Going around where the shirt is. The smaller the curl, the harder it is to get your color in there. Okay, now I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side here. That fork right here, tricky little guy, because it's right mixed in the hair, so to say. And again, I'm just keeping with the contours. And I'm using a light touch, so in case you're curious, I'm not pushing real hard. I'm just doing very ever so gently. Prismas, you don't really have to push hard anyway. They're so soft, they just glide over that paper. Again, I'm following the outline there. Kind of keeping with the flow. I was helping my aunt earlier with some computer issues, which prompted me to dig out my laptop and update it while I needed some updates. It's been a while. You know, you can only use so many electronic devices, right? We got our smartphones, we got our tablets, our iPads. It's like, holy moly. That's why I was like, I have that Android, that Samsung that I never use. I'm like, I put it up on OfferUp for cheap. I tried giving it away. Nobody wants it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's brand new. It's just so funny. Everybody has everything now. Okay, so that was the chocolate. Now I'm going to grab my, I think I'm going to grab my 1084. And I'm going to stay on that same side. And I'm going to kind of go down here with it, the 1084. I am going over what's there, but I'm still using the line effect. But again, remember what I said before, when you add in your lighter colors over your dark colors, doing a straight line, you're not necessarily blending, but you're layering. So you are still getting a little bit of a blended effect, but you're layering color and it will automatically blend because you're trying to keep those hairs. So you want to be able to see those little lines to give it a more realistic look. But again, by all means, do it the way you like. So working with light and dark, it can be tricky. Especially when you're trying to avoid making it look like all muddled together. Again, I'm not trying to fill in every white space. I'm just randomly adding. Get down to the bottom here where this is going to be a little bit lighter. Now I'm going to do the other side. Same thing. Combination of short and long strokes. Hopefully I'm not in your way too much. I missed a couple spots in here. Okay. This is like the time-consuming part. But if you want it to look like the upper portion, keeping with the same concept will give you that same outcome. Okay. I just love the effect that this gives when you do hair. And this method also works really good when you're doing fur. But fur has that undercoat. So getting that undercoat to look just right can be really tricky. That little bottom curl there. Okay, now I'm going to grab my 945 and start putting in some more fine hairs. You should start feeling your color building up a little bit as you're pulling that color down. You're not really filling in those light spaces, but you're kind of pulling your color into it. I have that little edge that's really light right there. So I'm trying not to blow it and end up filling that in with a dark color. But there's still time for me to do that. Gretel's napping. It was her dinner time. I fed her, so she's all fat and happy now. I figured, oh, let's start the video before she joins in and starts wreaking havoc. Every time I sit down, that girl, she goes for my feet. She's a little creature. She's so funny. She has this, I think I might have mentioned it before. I have this older ceramic, I don't know what it is, a decorative dish or bowl. But it weighs a ton. It was given to me, and it's so doggone heavy. But I really like it. It's really cool. And it's so big. It's just one of those awkward pieces. You're like, what the heck am I going to do with this? And you just don't have the heart to get rid of it because you like it, you know. But it is one of those pieces you have in your house, and you're like, ugh. So it plays musical places in my house. Ends up on my table, it ends up in the cupboard, it ends up random places. But it's really a pretty ceramic bowl with ceramic hand-painted fruit. It's really cool. So I put it on top of my fridge. And when I got Gretel, she was a little baby. Of course, she was just over a pound, 1 pound, 8 ounces or something like that. She was she was a rescue, so she needed a lot of love. Anyways, so I had a chair next to my fridge. And this is the first time I discovered how high that kid could jump. She jumped on top of the fridge, and she was laying inside that bowl. It was the cutest thing ever. So I have nothing else on top of my fridge. I don't keep food or anything up there, so I didn't really care. And she's just laying in there, and I don't know, a couple minutes went by. I figured she'd jump down, but she didn't. She fell asleep in that bowl. And it was the cutest thing ever. So, of course, you know, I'm taking pictures of my cat like that crazy cat lady. And I found this little baby blanket, and I threw one of those in there. Because it's, you know, it's cold, hard ceramic that can't be comfortable to lay on. And so now that's like her little spot up there. So the bowl has been up on my fridge now for quite some time, which is perfect. It's a good spot for it because it's always in my way, and it's so cumbersome and heavy. But I got quite a few pictures of her just snoozing in there. So after she ate dinner tonight, she stood in front of the refrigerator and cried at me. That's my cue. She wants me to pick her up and put her up there because she can't jump that high without something to jump on. So I give her a boost up there, and I'm like, "Good Lord, Gretel, you're not as lightweight as you used to be." She's a little porky now. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my 947 here. And this is your darker pencil. So I'm not going to go real heavy with my dark pencil. I'm going to get some good dark streaks up top here. I'm just going around the outside there. Those highlighted places. I'm going to go around the berry a little bit here. Okay. I don't want to put too much of the dark in because you don't want it to look black. Let me get in between there. But I'm just going to add a few. I'm going around the edges, again, those darker areas of the hair, and especially around the outside. So I'm just adding in a few of those dark streaks. Because we're going to put our gold in here, just like we did up top. I don't know why this side looks so weird. Okay, maybe because the angle I'm working. Trying to keep my hand from your view, but also be able to reach my picture. Okay. Again, just kind of going around the darker areas. I am still leaving some lighter areas in the center there. And like I said, the hair kind of gets lighter as go towards the bottom because, think of sun bleach. But if it ends up darker, it ends up darker. Kind of getting that line in there. Okay. Now do the same thing on the other side. Going around your edges and around that berry. And you don't need to push real hard, because you're not trying to fill in every white space. You're just going to build up layers with your pencil. Okay. I can hear my laptop over there. It's still doing updates. It's been running updates for a couple hours. That's pretty sad, right? Probably should pay attention to that more, but I'm busy and I don't always get on my laptop. I bought it thinking my desktop was finally going to be kaput because that thing's it's pretty old for a computer, but it was a custom one. No, my desktop is not dying anytime soon, which I guess in a way is good. I more than got my money's worth out of that thing. Had it more than 12 years. And it's running Windows 11, and sometimes paying that extra money to have a custom build job is well worth it. I think people do it and then they get mad that their computers fail. It really depends on a number of things. Just another little hobby of mine. I used to really do a lot of work with my computer. I do help other people with theirs, mostly family now. I just try to avoid well, what's wrong with my computer? Why didn't you fix it? It's like, well, it's garbage. you know, when you get the blue screen of death, it's done. There's not much I can do. It's time for a new one. Okay, let's take our gold pencil, our 950, and we're going to put some highlights with the gold like we did up top at the hair. So remember, the gold goes in a little bit darker. So when you're laying your gold in, just random streaks. Don't have to overdo it. That gold is just to give it some of those shimmering effects. We are going to come back in with a lighter pencil here after this gold one. And I told you we were going to put some more in the top, so we're not done with that. We are going to add a few more colors to the top there just to give it an overall finished look. Am I staying in your view? I know I flipped my page around. If I don't, you won't be able to see what I'm doing, and I won't be able to get in these curls. Weird movie I'm watching. The guy sounds like Candyman from that horror movie. If you're not familiar, it's an older horror movie from my generation, of course, like Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm adding those beautiful gold shimmers in there. Getting in between that fork is tricky. I don't know why I messed this little portion of the curl up so bad, but I did. I think it's just the hair flow. Didn't quite get it right, and it looks a little weird. But I might have to do some color correction on that later for my own sanity. Okay. I think often people just really overlook their metallics. And it's sad because they can do so much to a picture. Okay, I'm going to take my cream. I'm going to get a sharp tip here. Okay. And if you're wondering what pencil sharpener that is, that's the AFMAT electric. So only one I use. I'm going to take this sharp tip. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put some lines in here, because remember, hair coming down, it's going to be a little bit lighter than the hair on top of the head. I'm going to get in between those tines there. And I'm just going over what's already here. Going around that pencil there. So hard to get in between there without making it look weird. Notice the highlight around the edges there. So just draw in your fine hairs. And do it all the way down, do it on both sides. So what you should start feeling with your pencil is your pencil gliding a little bit easier across the paper now. Because this color actually is probably doing a little more of your blending. Okay, now I'm going to go over here to the other side. I'm going to do the same exact thing. Fix my paper here. I got lots of paper underneath its padding because this is got texture on this board. And I don't want that to come through on my picture. Okay, and there's that little bit right there. Again, I am not doing anything fancy. I'm just making lines. And I know what it looks like in person versus what it looks like in camera can be a little different. So just keep working your picture. Again, you can see that sharp tip there, so you know I'm not really applying a lot of pressure. You shouldn't really need to. You should be able to get those colors just to come through on their own. I think some people, we get in a hurry and we want instant results. But doing that will also cause a lot of hand fatigue. Okay, so I'm going to take my 943 again. I'm going to add some of those 943, those rusty reddish orange, I guess are those chestnut colored highlights. Sorry, it goes silent on you there. I think I need to put a little bit more of that top curl. I need a few more strands in here, I think. I'm just gonna repeat this on both sides. So again, following the complete direction of the hair. That's why I keep turning my page. Because I'm not cool enough to bend my wrist like that because it hurts. Some of you more younger people who are more elastic still. Just wait. Just you wait. Isn't it funny when we're young, we think we're indestructible, and when we're old, we're like, oh, I'm paying for everything I did when I was young? Yeah. It's true. Your parents were right when they said, just wait till you're older. Yeah. I wish they would never have said that to me. Because every time something aches, that's all I hear now is my parents saying, oh, just wait till you're older. And you're like, you know, why'd you have to say that to me when I was a kid? is just punishing. You get up and your body snaps, crackles, and pops like a bowl of cereal. You're like, wow. You don't know if it's good or bad. But it is true. And as women, some of us, we go through a little bit different aging process than men. But I think men go through their fair share as well. I think more men have a midlife crisis, though. Women, we just get that attitude like we're over it. We reach that, okay, I'm done. And we go one of two ways. We either get really grumpy or we're just like, forget it. I'm just going to go and do my thing. I'm going to live my life the way I want. Kind of like that, not negative attitude, that's the wrong word, more of that experienced, I'm older, I'm wiser, I now know better attitude. I know after I turned 40, my age definitely, I'm blurting it out now. After I turned 40, I think you just, I don't know, it just happens. You get a different perspective on life. I think you really start to think about your priorities more. Although I loved my 30s were a lot of fun. But my 40s were great. For the most part. All right. Woohoo! Okay, so we're not done. Let me adjust this here really quick. Now remember I said we're going to add some more up top here. Okay, oops. I need to add a few streaks right around this fork. Or I'm going to forget. It's like I missed a spot. Okay, I'm going to take my 948 and right up here in the hair, I want to add just a little bit more of the dark. Don't do a whole lot. And keep in the same direction as the hair is going. Why I'm doing this is I'm just adding a little more dark into the root line. And kind of pulling it through here just a little bit. It's the 948 is kind of an ashy color. So I'm just, certain areas, I'm just putting a little bit more in there. I don't want to do too much. I just want to get some more of those bits in there. Some more of those defining lines, so to say. I'm going to follow this curve right here, almost like a part line. You can see I'm just doing very subtle amounts. I definitely don't want to put too much in there because then you're pushing the boundaries between the chestnut brown and the ashy brown. I'm just going around the outline of the picture here. But I just wanted to get a few more of those dark streaks in there. Because it was like missing just that little extra in there. In my opinion, on my page it was anyway. Okay. All right. So now I like that a little bit better. A little darker brown up top. Now I'm going to take that same color and I'm only going to do a little bit right where the edges are. Because remember, this hair is kind of falling down. So it's going to be a little bit lighter. In my opinion, I mean, that's how my hair grows. It gets sun bleached at the bottom. And then paying attention to where the curls are, so it's kind of a shaded. Again, I'm not doing a whole lot. Just little bits here and there. Because this, again, this is a more ashy color. So you don't want to get too much in there. We will put a little black in here. And you got to be really careful with your black. Again, I'm coming around those curl areas. Sorry, I go silent mode again on you. Okay. Now I'm going to repeat the same on the other side, but you can definitely see where the contrast is. So you want to do the same on the other side. Again, I'm just kind of going around that berry. And because that fork is there, a little bit dark. Because that fork's kind of casting a little bit of a shadow. Okay. Again, just around that curve. Okay, let me roll my paper here. Cool. Starting to look like hair. All right. So pretty. Okay, I think I'm going to take let's do a little 945. Yeah, that's the ticket. I'm liking it. I like that. When your picture starts to show life and things start to come together as you plan, it feels good, huh? Especially when you take all the time in the world to do it. Nothing is more frustrating than when oops, I got out of your frame again, doggone it. Nothing is more frustrating than when you do a picture and you're like, I don't like it. I've had those moments. I'm like, oh boy, that didn't come out anywhere near what I thought it was in my head. Again, I'm just putting ever so slightly little bits in here. And repeat the same side, just like you would a butterfly. keeping everything very cohesive. In between these little fork tines is driving me nutty. I hope I'm not alone on that. It's not perfect, but really hard spot to get into and make it look like little hairs, little fibers. So what you should be feeling now is your pencil really sliding across your layers. Okay, woohoo! Okay, now I'm gonna do 2 more colors. Oh, maybe 3. Okay, so I'm going to take my gold. Where'd you go? Okay. I'm going to take this cream, and right around some of these edges where that cream color is, I'm just going to put a little bits in there. Can you see what I'm doing? Where I want more of a light tone. And this cream is good because it blends really good with the brown. It's not really a yellow. It's not really a white. And down here at the bottom, where the hairs are a little bit lighter, I'm just adding some little streaks in. Okay? Yep. Maybe a couple right here. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Kind of giving those little bits of highlights there. Just add a couple in here. And I think right here. Okay, looks pretty good to me. I'm going to take my black, and we're going to start up top with the black. Again, very, very gently with your black. Do not put too much or you're really going to turn your picture into a mess. So I'm just doing at the root line here. Just really light little streaks. I'm going to do a little on both sides. And from where that berry is. I am not adding a lot at all. Just tiny hints. And there's that hairline right there. I'm just following it. So what I'm doing is just kind of defining some separations in the hair. Okay. I don't want a lot. I just want subtle. Now, for your curl, I'm just going to follow some of these lines that are there. I'm just adding ever so lightly little bits. There's a in between that time there. Okay. Less and less towards the bottom. You don't want to cover up those little blonde highlights you did. Okay. Really makes it stand out. So again, on this side, just a few little dark streaks here and there. Again, around the curves. Am I still in your view? Sorry. Okay, a little darker at the bottom there than I liked. Okay, take my little bit of my gold. Sorry, I gotta readjust. So with my gold, I'm just really light touch. Put some little highlights. Your gold is what adds your little bit of shimmer, but because the gold has some color to it, you don't want to push too hard. I'm doing the same on the other side here. And if you think it's getting too dark, like I'm seeing a little bit more darker than I want in these curls, you can come back in and I'm going to add some up the top here. So you should really be able to see those gold highlights when the light hits it. So basically at this point, almost every little bit of the white that was poking through, you should no longer really see too much. And don't confuse it with some of the metallic effects. A little bit in the bangs right here. Okay. Now, where'd it go? Whoa. Where's my color? There it is. Okay. Oh, that was my 1084. So I just threw it on the floor. So we will take a little break and we will come back and we will finish with 1084 and we will go over to the berry. Okay, so I got my pencil back off the floor. I made a little pencil mark here, but we can get that off. Okay, like I was saying, your 1084 It's a really good color. If you got a little too dark, you can go in and add some subtle lighter areas if you want to change the depth or color. It's a good way to do that with this color. It's a little on the ashy side, but it's a little on the yellow brown side too. So anywhere that you got just a little too dark or you want it lighter, it'll kind of tone that out. And then once you do that, you'll want to go back in and hit it with maybe 943 just to give it that more auburn look to match the top. I'm just going to put a couple streaks on the other side in certain little spots that I thought I made it put a little too much dark in. So sometimes you can color correct fairly easy, and other times it's not so easy. But because we didn't necessarily burnish this area, you should be able to, depending on how, I guess, the grade of paper you're using. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab my 943 really quick, and I want to put some more of that 943 up here, because I think it's gonna match better. I like that a little bit better. And then just a few little pops down here. Okay, and a few little splotches on the other side here where I think I got a little too much dark. And it's kind of hard when you're looking at it the way I am to see. So at least I was able to put some of this back in there and make it look more or less like the top, with a little bit of lighter hair towards the bottom. Okay. Beautiful, I think. I think that came out stunning. Okay, let's move to this berry now. This hairberry. Are they called hairberries? A hairberry? Hairberry. I don't know what you would call those. Clips. Hairberries. I call them hairberries. So, for the hairberry, let's take our 122. That's what I started here. Do a really light coat of your 122. I can actually work this at a normal angle, I think. So cool. Okay, so what I did here is I put in, like I did on the first one, I just kind of laid in a little bit of a base color in the areas where I think I want that red. And I went right for the 122 this time. I'm going to come up around this top. I didn't put any white down yet, because I'm just kind of playing with where I want this red. And again, it's not perfect, but as you can see, that's just a little bit on the light side. Okay, I am going to grab my white. So once you've done that, you laid in your 122 where you want it. I am going to grab my white, and I am going to fill in this little area up here with my white. A very light coat. And that, again, gives me that area to work with where I know I want to put some lighter colors and kind of fade my colors around this area. And right up here on the top part too of that upper, there's that little berry up top. So I'm just putting a little coat of that white. You can see I already filled in my orange there, so I apologize for that. I really thought I was recording, but I didn't. And I'm going to go right here, just under that little leaf. Okay. Now I'm going to grab 923, which would be the next color. And I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and I'm going to start building my layers until I get the desired red color that I'm after. And my goal here is to kind of match the other side. So you can see where there's some darker shading. I am going to pay a little attention there where I put a little more dark color. Because again, like I said before, I like to keep with what the artist has depicted. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm laying in my 123 on a very light basis. I'm not going heavy. Working around those seeds because I put that orange in there already. And that was 1003, by the way, that color we used on the seeds. So I'm going to jump up here really quick. Just going to kind of, this is where some of that shading is. I'm just working around it here. And see now, because you've done your hair, if you get a little bit of that red, it won't be so bad. It's easy to, that brown will fade right into with that red. So you don't have to stress out if you get a little bit of your color into that hair. I am paying special attention to where they have that shaded area right here. Because that's going to be a little bit of a darker area. Just putting in that red color really nicely, going around those seeds. For the most part, I try to go around them. I try not to go over them with my red. Some more of that shaded area up here. Oops. I'll rotate my pencil a little bit. And I am using this light touch with a small circular motion here. Because I find that this method works really good if you're trying to push color into the fibers of the paper. And I personally get less hand fatigue from this than I do if I'm just applying straight pressure. And it does take time and practice to learn your touches when doing this way. Especially if you're amongst the heavy-handed ones out there. I used to be terrible. I just want an instant gratification, I think. I look at some of my older stuff, and I know I've shared stuff a long time ago. And I shared stuff a couple years ago, too. I didn't really get too many comments on it, but they were some of my older pictures that I did. But then people didn't really know who I was, so that's fine too. But I never posted really any of my stuff like this. I used to just kind of stay in the background and keep my mouth shut. And I did some product reviews here and there, but I never really made it known. I just followed other people's pages and just kind of kept quiet. All right, so that's 923. Now I'm going to grab my salmon, which is 1001. And right here around that 923 edge, I'm going to put a light layer of that salmon. I'm not going to fill in that white area like before. This is just kind of giving me an idea of what I'm going to get and how it's going to look. So by doing your light layers this way, you can get a better feel of where you want to put color and what color. So especially if you're trying to get a certain look, it's easier to add more color than it is to take it away once you've put it down. And with Prismas, we're having that conversation in one of the groups. The best way to remove Prismacolor pencils, if you've got a heavy coat, don't grab the eraser. Don't grab the electric eraser. That'll just push the color right into the paper. Then you'll really be struggling. So if you're going to do a color correction, grab removable Scotch tape. Make sure it says removable, or painter's tape is always removable. If it's not removable, you're going to stick that down on your paper and it's going to rip. The removable tape usually has a foggy appearance. It's not crystal clear tape. It's a little bit on the foggy side. Almost like a frosted look to the tape. So you just keep kind of putting your Scotch tape down and peeling it off, peeling it off. It'll start pulling the color off. Once you've pretty much utilized the Scotch tape method, then you want to grab an eraser. And one of these, this is a sand eraser. Now, be very careful with these. You can damage your paper by using these, but a lot of your colored pencil erasers do have some micro sand fibers in there. They're really good, and I'll just show you right here for an example. See this little pencil streak I got? This is a sand eraser. I'm using a circular motion and not using a lot of pressure, and I'm just going to remove that line. See, you're going to get some dust, but I'm being careful because I don't want to damage the fibers of my paper. Especially if you're going to fill those in with color. Once you've damaged your paper's fibers, it's going to be really hard to put color in there. Okay, now you can see it's lightened up dramatically. These are great erasers for getting little spots off your papers, but you want to be ever so gentle with them. And I could easily color correct that now. It's faded so much that I'm not going to blend that. I could easily fix that with whatever color I want to put in there. Okay, off topic, but anyway, since we were talking about it, I wanted to show you. Back to the berry. So now I'm going to grab 924. My 924 is the crimson red. It's a little bit darker. And I'm going to start down here where that shading is. And I'm going to follow around those seeds where that darker shading that the line artist put in here. So the person who created the drawing, Lana Green. I'm going to go around some of these berries with that darker, some of the seeds, giving a little bit of that shaded effect. And I hear trouble. I hear trouble brewing. She's working her way over towards me now. Is she gonna bypass me and head to the food bowl like she always does, or is she gonna come attack my feet? She's been pretty good these last couple of days. I think because we've had some pretty good rain and wind, and she doesn't really care for the storms. So she's been kind of my lap buddy, a little on the scaredy cat side. And I think that has a lot to do with her being outside when she was just a baby. She's not real partial to the icky weather. Like, I open up my door and she don't even want to go outside. She's like, no, I'm good. I'm an indoor cat, which is perfect because she's very much an indoor kitty. Felt so bad for her. She was approximately 6.5 weeks rescued. And I think at first we thought they were older, but they really weren't. So She was just a tiny little thing. And she still nurses on her blanket. She has this special little blanket that she likes to make biscuits on. And sometimes she nurses on the blanket. It can be annoying, but it's really cute. And I let her. I don't care. She's not hurting nobody. It's her comfort for her. So her and her siblings were all rescued. I'm not sure what happened to Mom. I'm not the one who found them, so. But I did end up taking her and her brother. The whole Siamese mix family. So Gretel's a Russian blue Siamese mix. She's just a great little kitty. And you can totally see her Russian blue in her color and her features. Plus her attitude. Wow, she's got the attitude. She fits the Russian blue almost to a T. She's food greedy. She's sassy. She is very much my kitty. She is attached at my hip. She got very attached to me. And I prefer it that way. She's a cool kitty. She's got a little street smarts in her, though. She's got some savvy attitude. Okay, you can see I'm just putting that 924 in here. Still just kind of building up my color and my layers where I want it. Let me get a little more around this bottom here. Right around. Because I got some over where that dark shading is, but I want a little bit more around the base here. And it's always going to be darker because the artist went ahead and shaded those areas a little bit with some grayscale shading. Which also helps if you're unsure of where to put your shading. The artist has given you some subtle hints by doing that for you. Again, I'm getting around that seed. I know I'm going a little fast. I'm trying not to make this video too long. The first part was a little long, and that's because I was a little chatty in the beginning. I try not to do that too much. I try to get right to the point. And I know I watch some of these other, like, these influencers that are really good. They're really good at making videos. And then there's me. I'm just like, whatever. I think I'm more like a lot of people out there. Just kick back and do what I like because I enjoy it. I don't make any money. I don't collect commissions or anything like that. So I do this because I want to and to share my knowledge with other people. My product reviews and stuff, when people send me things or a company sends me something, if I get extras, I donate it. I give them away to, like Christmas time, I'll donate a huge box of art supplies for, especially if they're new. I like to save them and make sure I get unopened stuff. So if I get 2 of something, I will donate that to the holiday fund drive for my local community, or I give them to the veterans organizations around here, the veterans, disabled veterans clubs. They love stuff like that, especially our older generation. When you get to a certain age, there's not a whole lot you can do, but some of these guys and gals can really draw. And art supplies are always in demand. Arts and crafts type stuff. So I like to give that stuff away. All right, so I got a good base color going now. I'm going to take this 924 and I'm going to go up around this edge here and around my leaf with it. A little bit darker. I'm trying to keep the top portion of this berry. The berry on the left side was a little shadowed, I thought. So I did a little darker. But this one has more light exposure, in my opinion. So I don't want to make it too dark. But I want to get some of this red in there. Okay, doke. Now, let me see. What do I want? I actually am going to grab my 118. I know, I'm going to throw 118 at you. I'm going to take 118 and I'm going to go up here to this top berry and I'm going to put a little bit of that 118 in here. Ooh, look at I chipped my lead. That's okay. I can still use it. The reason I want to add some of this 118 because it's orangey, but it's not bright orange. It's a perfect orange for this, for the berry. I want this one up top just to be a little brighter than the bottom one. Around the edge there. So again, you can see I'm not doing too much. I'm going to put a little right in here where the two berries are kind of meeting. Just going to add subtle bit of color, and I am blending it a little bit with that red. Just want to get a little pop in there, right around this edge here. I don't want to do too much because I'm not trying to make it an orange berry, but it's just going to make that color a little bit brighter when I start laying in some more. And you would be surprised what your oranges and yellows and reds, when you work them together, what you can get. Get some beautiful combinations. Okay. Yep, that's good. Okay, now let's see. Let's take our 927, which is our light peach, and let's go up top here with our light peach and kind of mix a little bit of that orange and red in our light peach. Not too much, just staying with that really bright spot right there. Yeah, it's a tight spot. And I'm going to do around top here a little bit. Again, I'm not using heavy pressure. I'm just using a very subtle pressure. So I got that salmon, that 923. I got some white. I got some 927. It's kind of giving them a good blend around the edge here. Okay. I'm not going to work it too far down because I like to work this part at the end. But I don't want to end up with a really sharp line there. So I do want to blend a little bit. Okay. Yep. Now back to my 122, and I'm going to lay in a little bit more color with my 122. And you should start to really feel the color building. And you're probably still seeing a lot of white peeking through your paper, especially if you're using a heavier paper like I am. Eventually you will burnish that away. So I'm just getting around all these little seeds. I think that's the hardest part sometimes when you're doing fruits and berries is the seeds, especially strawberries. You know, if you do color your seeds in, you can add them where you want. It's not the end of the world. Just do your best to kind of see where they were and put them back in, or put them in where you think they go. So again, I'm just working around all these wonderful seeds in here. I say that with a little bit of sarcasm in my voice. And again, I'm not using heavy pressure still. I'm still using a light touch. I'm just blending the colors because we got those darker areas. We got those lighter areas. Get around this one down here. Some of them, it's hard to see where they're at still. But again, that goes back to why I like to throw that yellowish orange in there to kind of keep an eye on where my seeds are. Otherwise, I will be filling them in like a crazy lady. Because I get focused on getting that red color down that I just forget that I have to go around them. I got dinner in the oven, so as I'm doing this, I'm multitasking today. The wind has finally died down a little bit here, but we're supposed to get some more rain because we had a pretty significant flood warning. And then our temperatures are supposed to, like, overnight go from, like, the lower 40s to upper 70s. I'm like, that is the typical weather in this state. It's like last winter, we went from, 75, 80 degrees, boom, 30. It was hilarious. I was like, everyone was sick. I was like, y'all haven't learned yet. And how long have you lived here? Weather out here, the sun could be shining in your front yard and it's raining in your backyard. That is part of the beauty of the Pacific Northwest. We get some crazy windstorms, though, dependent to which area you live in. Some of the worst storms are up along the straits. The Straits of Juan de Fuca get really crazy. And the islands, like Whidbey Island, Friday Harbor, it can get really bad out there. It just really depends on what part of Washington, because we have the convergent zones all over. And if you're in the path, you're going to get it, especially if a storm is coming through. It's funny because you can live one town away, and one city has 3 feet of snow, and the city that's 3 miles away has nothing. That is the lovely convergent zone. It sets up and it can be a monster. And it can literally dump rain or snow inches in a matter of minutes. I mean, people forget those clouds have to release all that before they can get up over those mountain passes. So they get up top there and then they let everything buck. And some of our ski resorts get crazy amounts of snow. So if you're a big fan of skiing, again, I'm just working this 122, blending with what I've already had. And you can see the darker areas and the lighter areas. And I'm going to keep working these colors until I get that blend that I like. I'm just kind of filling in certain areas. And I think I'm going to grab my 925 just for a minute. I just heard a good wind gust, and it's not that windy out right now. Okay, I'm going to grab my 925. Wait. I'm going to put a little of this 122 up here, because it's my brighter of my reds. Still want to keep this upper berry more of a brighter toned berry. I don't want to get it too dark. Get a little in here. Okay. Yep. I'm going to grab my 925. My pencil's peeling. Typical. I hear a lot of people complain about that. They get mad when the paint chips off. Well, it happens. Mine get handled so much, the paint rubs off from my own fingers from just the overhandling of them. But I should bust out some of my older pencils. Okay, I was joking with a friend. I was telling her that I was going to do this video and I'm going to bust out some of my really old Eagle and Barrel pencils and my Made in USA ones, some of my other pencils that I have, and I'm just going to start coloring with them. I told her, I said, maybe I'll just put one in my mouth and chew on it and see what people do. It's like, remember that video where Sarah Renee Clark ruined some of those Prismacolors and everyone gasped? That would be me. I wouldn't ruin them, but just the reactions are fun. I can't believe she did that. I was like, oh no, the Prismacolors. It's crazy. I felt that in my heart. She's funny. I've watched some of her videos. She's got like the whole professional video thing going on though, where I am so not a professional. I just do it. I just roll with it. Whatever happens, happens. What are you going to do, right? I can't perform miracles. And I know I get comments once in a while from people that make me chuckle sometimes. They'll send me information. It's like, how do I say this? I've always promised brutal honesty, so sometimes people will send me things or they'll make a comment, and I want to go on there and say, I'm not new. I know this channel's not been on here very long, but I'm not new to doing this. And I love all the comments I get. I get some negative ones. I don't care. But if I get nasty comments, I will delete them because I don't tolerate rudeness or bullying on my channel. It's just inappropriate. If you don't like it, move on. You know, you don't have to be nasty to other people. You don't have to leave nasty comments. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And that is okay in my book. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. But I wouldn't dare go on somebody's page and just be super nasty to them. And I've received some nasty comments. And I don't know if they're just trolls, because when I look, they're not even following my page. So I'm like, why do you care what I do? Why does my existence bother you so much? You just never know what people are thinking. But yeah, sometimes I get comments and they make me laugh. And then other times I'm like confused by comments. I don't understand. And then I have to read it like 4 times and it finally clicks. And I'm like, oh, okay, I know what you mean. I don't know. I'm a brunette, but sometimes I have blonde moments, I think. I'm a closet blonde at times. Is a good term, a closet blonde. But I'm also Generation X, so yes, I'm one of them. I am one of those Gen X types. We typically don't really have a filter, and our brutal honesty sometimes hurts feelings, although we don't mean to. But if you know anybody who's Gen X, don't ask their opinion unless you want it, because it may not be the opinion you're looking for. And if it's one thing Gen X is known for, it is not tiptoeing around feelings. We are definitely not the soft type. We tend to say exactly what we're thinking, exactly what we feel. It's like sometimes our filters are broken. And if you're Gen X and your parents are boomers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you weren't missing a limb, they don't care. You'd be like, I'm bleeding. Your parents would be like, you'll be all right. Wash it off. You're standing there, you got blood running down your arm. Your parents looking at you like, your finger's not missing. You'll be all right. You're like, can I have a Band-Aid? Get some toilet paper. And you're like, what? Right? You know what I mean? You got a broken bone? Okay. The bone's not protruding from your arm. This is 122. It'd be like, you'll be all right. Wrap an ace bandage on it. You know, it swells up 5 times its size. Okay, maybe we should take you to the doctor now. A week later, you go into the doctor's office. The doctor's like, why didn't you come in sooner? You're sitting there looking at your parents like, ask them. What do you say to that? You just, and then people wonder what's wrong with us. It's like, have you met my parents? Have you experienced the boomer generation? And then you get those comments where people are saying, oh, you want us to feel sorry for you because you were ignored. No, not at all. I had a great childhood. My parents did not micromanage my life. They let me make my mistakes. They let me get hurt. You learn that way. You don't, to pause on that story, I'm just building up color with this 122, as you can see. Because this berry is, like I said, darker in some areas. But this side, the berry is going to be a little bit brighter than the other side. Because there's not as much shading. Okay. Anyway, so like I was saying, growing up Gen X, it was different. We didn't have the internet. We did, but not until we were older. Was everybody had computers in their homes, and there was no smartphones when I was a kid. I mean, we had Walkmans. If you don't know what a Walkman is, you might want to Google that. So we didn't have like all the cool stuff that you guys have now. We didn't have dial-up. You ever know what dial-up is. But we played outside as kids. That's what we did all summer. We built forts. We did just silly kid things. We went swimming in the local, swimming hole. We got our friends together. We found things to do. We got a summer job. But we certainly did not sit inside on a computer all day or in front of a video game. That's the fastest way to have your parents put you to work or assign you chores. I mean, if you wanted to go to the movies on the weekends with your friends, you had to earn the money. You had to wash the car, do yard work. There was no such thing as just a routine allowance for breathing. If your parents came in your room and they told you to clean it up and you didn't, after asking you a couple times, you go to school and you come home and the only thing in your room is a sleeping bag and a pillow. And now you're in tears. You're like, where's all my stuff? Your first thing out of your parents' mouth is, what stuff? The stuff we bought you? I own that. I paid for it, not you. You just did not argue with your parents back then. I mean, my parents were the first ones to quickly haul off and backhand you for being mouthy. But today's kids, woo-wee. Some of them spout off to their parents, and I'm like, really? I don't understand that. And their parents are like, they're just doing it out of frustration. I'm like, frustration? Send that little monster over to my house for a weekend. We'll see who's crying. I don't know. I think different generations raise their kids very differently. And although Gen X, most of Gen X's kids are millennials. But then some of Gen X has Generation Z children because they had their children either older or the younger Generation X has Generation Z or grandchildren that are Gen Z. But then there's Generation Alpha. All right, I'm going to grab my 1003 and I'm going to put a little of that up in here. Generation Alpha. They are like the new breed of Gen X. They are fearless. They are go-getters. They are sassy. I mean, they are sassy. And these are the kids mostly of Generation Z and some of your your really young millennials. And I get to laughing when I see some things these young alpha generation kids do. I'm like, that is some craziness we would have did as kids. And it makes me have hope that all is not lost. You can see I'm taking the 1003 over the upper berry there. I'm kind of mixing all those colors. Because again, like I said, I want this berry to be a little on the brighter side up here. Okay. Now I'm going to go down here with my 1003. And I'm going to blend some of this red in my 1003 and give it that brightness I'm looking for. And you should really start to feel your colors really moving into your paper now. You should get more of a slick feel as you're blending your color. I hope that makes sense to you. 1003 is a good color when you're doing these bright red berries. So what I'm doing is I'm working those reds with this 1003. And I'm kind of pushing that color a little bit into the paper. I'm not quite burnishing yet, but I'm really close. So I'm still going to have good area to lay in a little bit more of bright red or dark red. And my shading should be really nice. And we will work on some of those shaded areas around the berry as soon as I get this layer in. But anyway, I think too often people are afraid to put light colors over dark and dark over light. They just don't know where to start. And for me, I didn't just sit down and say, hey, look what I can do. It took practice. And a lot of people forget that. And they, especially artists who've been doing this for a long time, or they can really draw, and they create these beautiful pieces of art. It's envious. But they too often dismiss younger artists, and they don't want to help. And it's like, wait a minute. Don't you remember when you just started? You weren't top-notch artist. So helping people to achieve something, I think it's always good. Even if you don't want to, it's always good. Okay, so now you can see it's not burnished yet because you can still see some white flecks on my paper coming through, unlike this side is really sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I think, my 1030, which is that dark raspberry. And I'm going to kind of go around some of these seeds a little bit, just with a little bit of shading in some of these areas. And you can see up here she had more of that dark shading. So I'm just kind of focusing around that. And again, I'm not pushing hard. I'm just kind of outlining the seeds in a way. Not all the way around every part of it, but just certain bits. And it's going to give you that contrast. And I know it's hard to see because my big fat hand's in the way. You ever notice that on camera? It's true. Everything looks bigger because my hands always look like little fat little fingers. And I see some of these influencers have their nails all done all pretty, and then there's me. I don't care. I might get my nails did. I like to get pedicures, though. I like to spoil my feet. Because I'm retired military, my poor feet took a beating. So I'm going to put some of this dark around the bottom here. Those boots, they're not nice to feet at all. My hips, my feet, my back. Military life is not for the faint. That is for sure. It will make, I don't care if you're male or female, it'll make you man up. It'll either bring out the best in you or the worst in you. And it's up to you. Again, I'm just going around some of these seeds with this darker color. Yep. I know, I find it funny when I hear some of the younger generations, they get so wound up and they get so upset at things. And I remember when I was a kid, you know, certain things would just drive me nuts too. It's just part of growing up. But some of the things these kids get really nasty to their parents. I'm like, what the heck? If I did that, I'd have been on the ground. That would not have been tolerated. My parents would have knocked me flat on my biscuits. Let alone my grandparents. Woo-wee. You do not disrespect. You would have never heard the end of that one, that's for sure. Okay. I think I need my salmon up here. Let's blend a little of that salmon in here. Keeping with that bright, cheery area up top. My nice little highlighted area. I'm going to mix some of that salmon in. I want to get a nice little base here. Yep, it's blending very good now. And that little bright edge right there under those leaves. I am using a medium pressure here. But again, not too heavy because you'd definitely tell if I snap those tips. But you can see how pretty those blends come together with these colors. That's all I'm doing here is just kind of mixing these beautiful colors, making them work together. And you should really feel the softness of that color moving across the paper. It should more feel like you're painting with a pencil. Okay, now I'm going to grab my white. No, I'm not. I lied. I'm going to grab 927. And take this 927 right in the center here, that really bright spot. Because I don't want it white. I want it a creamy color, but I don't want white right there. I want it to be a little subtle. And then right around here. See, I got a little dust there, so. Yeah. Now, take your 1003 and go ahead and give your berry a good overcoat, a good blend with your 1003, going over your reds, your dark reds. So what you're doing right now is you should be almost burnishing your page. Now this color, like we did on the other side, working the 1003, you're not losing your red tones where you got bright red, dark red. You're going to be able to keep them. And if you don't want to do the bright 1003, you can grab your 122, will work nicely for this portion. I want this to be a little brighter, so I want to use the 1003. And I'm getting some dust, so I know I'm about done adding color. I will be able to add a little bit of shading, and that should be final. And then to fill in my seeds, which we'll do next really quick. Trying to get around these is tricky. Get around that edge down here. Normally I have a little brush. I like to brush my dust off, but it is up on my left right now, and I am focused. I am focused. I don't want to grab it. I hear the wind picking up again. That must be why Gretel's not annoying me. She does not like the storms. Poor little girl. Last year we had a wicked thunderstorm, and she was not happy about that. Wow, she was in my lap like a scared little chicken. Okay, now really quickly, grab your yellow Posca or your yellow pencil, your yellow gel pen, whatever you choose to use, and you're gonna dab your seeds. As you see here, I'm just very carefully putting in my little seeds. They don't have to be perfect. Just put your little bits in there. And then we will add some shading around them. You know, there's this one little seed right on the edge here. But I will show you what I did on the other side. As soon as I get these little bits of color in there. Ooh, my arm's being weird. You ever get little muscle spasms? Or it feels like little aliens under your skin are kicking you? So my shoulder just did that. Overuse. Overworked. An underpaid shoulder. That's my bad shoulder because I'm right-handed. I have a little tear in my rotator cuff. Again, that's because I'm Gen X. We tend to abuse our bodies. We should be called the generation of nuts and bolts. I'm pretty much bolted back together. Got lots of fancy hardware. I do. I'm an orthopedic surgeon's nightmare. I think that's just our generation, though. Okay, while that's dry, I'm going to show you on the other side. Okay, see I put little tiny dots, little itty-bitty seeds around the big seeds? We're going to do that on this side, too. And it just gives it a little more character. But I'm not going to do that yet. That's like the final thing. So my 1099, I'm going to take that and I'm going to go around and give a little bit of shading. Again, that 1099 is a really good color to work with your reds for shading. And I'm just putting a little of these shaded bits back in here around the seeds. And if you get it on the Posca or your Posca gets scraped off a little bit, that's all right. You can put it back on there. It should be pretty much dry though. That's why I tell people if you get too much of your Posca on the page, don't quickly dab it or wipe it away. Let it dry. Because then once it's dry, you can just pick it right off the paper. If you smear it right away or try to wipe it off, you're just going to make it a mess. That's when you get into trouble. Because now you got a smeared blob of paint that's gone into the fibers, other than just drying and sitting right on top. Okay. Your gel pens, it's the same way. Let it dry, scrape it off. Don't smear it. Don't rub it. Don't panic when it happens. And I've done it, or I've run my hand across it when it's wet, and I'd be like, oh, doggone it. Then you just got this big smear. I hate it when I do that. That's why I try to focus and work from one side to the other so I'm not running my hand across my page all the time. I know there's some left-handed artists out there who probably struggle more with that. But they do make those really cool little gloves. Okay, I'm going to put a little dark down here. So they do make those artist gloves, which also help with hand fatigue, but they also help prevent smearing. I don't know what they're made out of, but I've seen some that are made out of really shiny polyester type material. I don't know if that makes a difference. So here's where the artist had laid in some heavier shading, and that's all I'm doing is putting a little of that heavier shading in here. Almost exactly where they had it. And a little around the bottom. Again, it's a good color. It works nicely with the reds. And I'm going to cut a little in here. Just a little up top there to separate. We still got to do the leaves. Do a little bit of that shading around these seeds here. There. How do you like those cookies? Okay. I think I can burnish mine a little bit more, but when you do your yellow Posca, I just take it, when I add my little dots, I just put a couple here and there. Just like that. It's really random. There's no pattern. I don't overdo it, because if you overdo it, it starts to look weird. Like I was looking at my berries. They're not even, I don't even know if they're surviving. There. Made it look very cool. So that's what you have. Let me move this here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Can I zoom out? I don't know. Operator error, can I? Okay. So now we've done our hair. We've got that bright, rich gold highlights. We've done our two little ponytails. And now you can make modifications here and there as you go along. You can darken up your hair. You can brighten up your hair. I wanted to go with more of a reddish brown, like an auburn, I guess, or a chestnut, I should say. But you can still see they got those dark tones in there. And you can add more layers. I can definitely add more layers on this paper to really make that hair more on the brown side, on the chestnut side. But it's up to you how much you want to put in there. But you can see the shimmer from the gold. Hopefully it comes across on camera. And then you got your fabulous berries here. So anyways, you guys, the next video, I think we're going to do maybe the face and work our way down. Or maybe we'll work some more on these berries down below. We will see. Till next time. Thanks for watching.